thank you for joining. William Steele, True Crime, and Steele Spotlight TV, soon to be radio again, podcast, and my very, very special guest and friend, podcast show host, retired ATF agent, Ignacio Esteban. Ignacio, thank you for joining us again.
Like always, Bill, another great show, man. We always do true crime, politics, and we always have good ones coming out.
Yep. So just for the audience, I'll address this. And, I'm just thrilled that we're growing this platform. And a lot of people realize I've been incarcerated. You've been in law enforcement. This is kind of an odd pairing. But we've come to grow to know each other and trust each other. You know my reputation. I know yours. And I know that we are really telling these stories to help people. And I'll give you a quick backstory. So in my case, Ignacio, and for my audience, I've been no angel. I had a cocaine problem, and I spun my skills as a locksmith and alarm technician to become a professional jewel and art thief, and stole millions of dollars and been to prison, more than once. I escaped from prison. I ended up on the America's Most Wanted website. So I had quite this checkered history, extensive record and all that. But I've turned it all around, and I've come back full circle to where I started, which was crime victim advocacy, because I always wanted to be the guy who could get in and out of anything, the guy who helped people, because my mother was mentally ill, and I saw her bullied and victimized in the streets of Brooklyn by, all the kids picking on her and, throwing snowballs at her. And so it was always a very sore point for me, this childhood where I exposed to so much. And then seeing these facilities she went to, they're not exactly assisted living. They're more psychiatric hospitals. Pilgrim State comes to mind. So my earliest memory was going to visit my mother there. So I always wanted to be this guy that stood up for women, children, the mentally ill. And so I wanted to actually go into federal law enforcement and or the CIA even, because I was kind of raised on these old episodes of Mission Impossible with Peter Graves and, of course, James Bond. Everybody loves these movies. And so I wanted to be that guy. And I went bad because a friend died and I tried coke. And that's a whole other story. It's going to be coming out in my book, movie, and drama series. I say all that to say this. In those years, in the late 70s, early 80s, I don't have the exact year pinned down, there was an organization that was initially labeled a vigilante group, which, as we know, has turned the corner and worked out a lot of the kinks they were having. Yeah. They were called the Magnificent 13, headed by Curtis Sliwa.
Yeah.
Curtis Sliwa is now still involved, and the organization is called the Guardian Angels. You guys, everybody knows them. They have the red caps, the white shirt, the logo, and all that. So Ignacio, I recently shared with you, I was one of not the founding members of the Magnificent 13, but one of the earlier groups, maybe after it was up maybe a year and a half, something like that.
I got you. Okay.
So I was actually a member of the Guardian Angels. And, I think I surprised you when I told you that, because I've always had a heart, because I've known people that were robbed on the subways and little old ladies with their purse snatched. And, my father was sleeping on a subway one day and coming home from work, he's exhausted. It's rush hour. And he dozed off. And he woke up to found somebody squatting down with a razor blade cutting his pocket just to take his cash out while he slept. He woke up in the middle of that. So I know people that were robbed. I know other people that were horribly victimized on the subways that were so dangerous in the 70s. And so here we have a guy, Curtis Sliwa. We called him the Rock back in the day. I would say he's a little bit of an arrogant, very cocky New Yorker, Sicilian, mostly, Polish, and a little bit loud. He was known as just really being a crime fighter. He didn't know how to go about it, and he formed these patrols, and so I was involved with the Guardian Angels. Now, just before we get too deep into the Guardian Angels, what do you think of the Guardian Angels? What do you know about them, Ignacio?
Yeah, it's interesting because I remember a little bit growing up about the Guardian Angels. Obviously, I remember the red berets. I remember the white shirts. I remember them in boots and patrolling the subway system. That's my recollection. I do remember some people saying positive things about them, that they have made certain areas safer. They felt safer. I remember people saying, I felt safer when I saw them there because NYPD can't be everywhere, and they were protected. NYC is a massive city, massive city, and unfortunately, its crime problem has always been notorious. Gotham has always had issues, right? It's been out of control, really, really bad. It's a place where people escape from New York, right? The famous movie Escape from New York. People are just fed up with it. The violence is nonstop. So my impression was that I did research like anything else, and I wanted to look more into them. And I saw the controversial side there. I saw that his background, on a high school guy, didn't have college education. He had some choices given by his parents. Either if he was going to either go back to school, he's going to get out of home, or he start paying rent. And you got to start getting a job, right? I mean, you don't want to go finish. You got to go to high school. You got to do something. So he got a job at McDonald's as a manager, I guess, working midnights in the Bronx, really tough area. And he met this Asian guy. I don't remember the name of the guy's name right now, on top of my head, but he showed him, if you want to survive this, you want to be a victim here, because this is a predominantly black area. You're going to have to do certain things because people are going to test you here. They're going to try to steal from you. They're going to try to hurt you because he has to take also the money from at night, go to the bank. I mean, these are all things they're going to be watching for. It's a dangerous situation, folks, to be in. That's why people say, why do you work for like a 7-Eleven? And why do you work for these grocery stores when and I've seen them, Subways at night. The midnight shifts are extremely dangerous in law enforcement. I've seen them. People get killed and they're victimized all the time. He had no firearm, which is ridiculous. They had to either carry machetes, bats, or whatever they could, which is absurd. You should be allowed to protect yourself. This is my point. We had talked about in previous shows. You have in Florida, Virginia, you need to be able to carry your weapon, carry your firearm, get your concealed weapons from, get the training you need. So these thugs, these gangbangers, don't take control of the city. They don't run anything. They are criminals. They're put in their place and they're taken care of. And to have that happen was disgraceful. So I saw that about him. What I didn't like, and this is me in law enforcement, is it's one thing when your eyes and ears, when you see something, say something. I'm for that all the time. If someone's getting assaulted, help out the victim, of course. Try to record it, try to do all that. I didn't like
these days. Their first instinct seems to be to laugh about it and film and to try to be the first one to put it on the internet.
Who's that?
In general, people when they see an assault going down.
Yeah. You have to help out, obviously. That too. I can't watch someone get victim. Yeah, but it's good though you're recording though. That is good because that's evidence in case there's dispute later in court. I like the part there now with technology. I think that's a good thing if they're doing that. Recorded the assault and help at the same time. You can have somebody else that way. When the perpetrator says later, "Oh no, that didn't happen that way." Oh yes, it did. And here's the evidence because they're going to lie about it. Of course, they're going to say this person started, and so you have to have that evidence. Remember, people are also cunning. So you got to prepare for all that. So that part I like about the guardian angel. What I don't like, and maybe they stopped doing this, I'm not sure. I found it bad for them to go. And I mean, I support them, but this is police work. If you have information of a crack house, give it to law enforcement that you have information of a crack house that's actually going. But you can't have a raid going into a crack house yourself, take the crack out yourself, crush the crack, and give the money to the homeless shelter or what have you. I mean, that's not what you do. You can't do that.
Listen, we're talking about a different era. We know there was no warrant. The crack houses are probably houses that don't belong to the dealers or the users. They're commandeered, abandoned houses. So, yeah, there's still all legalities that they just stepped over in the 70s and early 80s. However, I can say from personal experience in New York in the mid 80s even, I was caught with a guy, his nickname's Buttons, very dangerous character in New York. I was with him. He was on parole for shooting a policewoman in the vest during a raid. He had shot through the door, hit her vest, did time, got out. I'm hanging with him, and he allegedly had killed a lot of people. His mother was always warning me, Billy, get away from my son because he's extremely dangerous. You have skills that he wants to use, and you'll do a big heist with him, but you'll be dead. He'll steal all the jewelry and cash. And so we had got pulled over in Lower East Side back when it was very dangerous, 7th Precinct, New York, on Rivington Street. And it was a horribly dangerous area. We were out there doing drug deals. And the police officer that pulled us over, they took some of the drugs, put them down the sewer, some of the paraphernalia, put it down the sewer, took the cash for themselves, had us up against the car for quite a while. I have nothing on me. I have no record. His record's atrocious, and he's on parole. They found a hidden handcuff key on him. They threw that down the sewer and let us go after stealing cash. So there wasn't just the guardian angels back in those days but they said they were giving the cash, in this case, to a church or something. So It was kind of prevalent all over the place.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true or not. But, you can't be – I mean, I understand the frustration. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It has to be accountability. When you have such a huge – one of the largest police departments, if not the largest in the country, this can't be happening. You have to have it locked down like that. I think Giuliani did a good job cleaning up the city, but I think he ran, I guess, for mayor. He lost against Eric Adams. It wasn't really close. So it's hard to win as Republican now. You have to show. I mean, if you were going to win, De Blasio was a disaster, an absolute socialist disaster governor. He's the reason why the city has declined so much after 8 years of that disaster. And I don't think Adam. I mean, he was a captain in NYPD. That's great. He did some politics. He's trying to bring some things back, but you have to be ultra aggressive. You can't give in to the socialists, to the leftists like that, who think that appeasing them is going to help. It's like Lopez Obrador with the cartels in Mexico. You can't appease these people. You can't. You only respect strength. You have to respect strength.
All the countries that appeased Hitler when he was overtaking, Europe, fell to Hitler. You can't appease a tyrant, and Chamberlain's policy of appeasement wasn't working. And when Churchill got in and got down with the United States, you see where Hitler is today. It doesn't exist. So you cannot appease a tyrant.
No, and I think that's going to happen against Xi Jinping, and it's going to happen also to Putin. And these are all tyrants. Nicolas Maduro, the same thing. You put all these guys in the same boat. They're all tyrants and dictators, and they all have to go down. Kim Jong Un's another one.
Yep. Circling back to Curtis and the Guardian Angel.
Yeah.
He
so
has run for mayor, but he bumped heads. He bumped heads with an early mayor, Ed Koch.
Oh, he did.
You remember that story?
He called them the Hells Angels. They weren't calling the Guardian. He was calling them the Hells Angels. He was calling just a bunch of thugs, a bunch of gang members. But they changed their heart. I think they were frustrated. Like you said, his words. He came from a blue collar family, right? I forgot the name of the city. He came out of Brooklyn, but
Canarsie section of Brooklyn.
What is it? Canarsie?
It was the Canarsie section of Brooklyn.
Yeah, and very ethnic. I guess it was very, I think Jewish, Italian, or something.
Yes, just like my neighborhood, Gravesend, Bensonhurst, Sheepshead Bay.
You're right. So you have that, and then I guess he met different people. His first wife, I think, it was from a different lifestyle, come from rich money from New Jersey, right? Looks like a supermodel. She got involved in it, which is great. And they train people, which if you can't carry your weapons, at least they give them some martial arts skills to defend and help the needy and the poor. That was smart. But guess what? You're not going to win against a guy who has a firearm. So that's, to me, it was a very dangerous situation. I admire people doing that, but very dangerous because these are criminals, they're gang members. They don't care, and they're armed. That's a problem. You're not going to beat them when they're armed. But luckily, I think a few died, right? If I'm not mistaken, Guardian Angels, they were shot. One was even by a police officer. I don't remember the exact place. I saw the documentary. I think it was New Jersey, by a sergeant who he opened his, allegedly. I mean, I wasn't there. Just what was said, that he opened his jacket up and he shot him in the chest or whatever and killed him. That's horrible.
Yeah, so Curtis has been very, very vocal. Like I said, we used to refer to him as The Rock. I knew Lisa Sliwa, his wife. I'm not sure if they're still together today. I think recently divorced or something. But he's had quite a colorful career. There's Guardian Angels in the entire world right now. Every major city has patrols of Guardian Angels. And my experience in the early stages of the Guardian Angels were I was on a South Brooklyn patrol. We originated like in Coney Island, Brighton Beach, Sheepshead Bay, and that whole the D line, the D train, M line, if anybody knows that train line. And so what we would do is we had the berets, we had the T-shirts, and here's the requirements to go on patrol. Like you said, in the early days especially, virtually no training except for this. You did not put any of that stuff on while you were alone riding the train to go meet up with everybody else. Once everybody for that patrol, for example, 10 of us, found each other at a given train station, I think we used to meet at a station called DeKalb Avenue. I don't remember now. But anyway, so we'd meet there. Everybody was there, checklist. Everybody put on their gear. Now you have that, that group with you where people are not going to try you if you were riding, with those designations on you, by yourself. So these trains were extremely dangerous. And so it would be one person per car. And at each stop, a Guardian Angel would be standing for the whole trip. You wouldn't sit down. Each stop, you'd look out and you look forward and you look backwards and keep your hat on. If there was a problem in your car, you were not supposed to address it. If somebody was getting robbed or raped or murdered, you were not supposed to address it. There was no cell phones by yourself. You had to wait for that train to go to the next stop and then take your hat off and lean out. And this time you're waving it in a circle. You're trying to get the attention of the other Guardian Angels that are looking up and down, and they will run through the train or the platform, either one, and they'll run through the cars and come to your aid and to the aid of the victims. So it was kind of organized in that regard. That was a signaling device, that red beret. If you see them, if you see any footage of them peeking out and it's on their head, that means there's no problem. If somebody's doing this, that's the car you're going to run to. So
very, very dangerous, Bill. Very dangerous.
I remember, yeah, we disrupted quite a few things, and guys would generally just stare you down, then it'd get off the train. And you could tell what they were all about because they were robbing and mugging people left and right. And, it'd be like 3 or 4 of them come up to you with a screwdriver or a knife or something and say, oh, y'all think you're tough, and you get the F off my train, and they'd leave when they saw us. They'd leave. But I've had knives pulled on me and weapons and all kinds of stuff trying to intimidate us out of doing what we were doing. One incident that stands out. We go to meet at the station. We're already behind the turnstile. Back then, you put a token as a regular old wooden turnstile, and we're already on the paying side meeting up. And then the booth for the place is right there, and the doors to the street. Well, while we're there, and maybe half of us were there, there was a guy. I think everybody was just starting to gear up. There was a guy who jumped the turnstile, didn't pay, and went to use a telephone that was on the other side. We're not there for that. We don't care about turnstile jumpers. We're there if somebody's committing a violent offense against somebody on that train. Okay,
sure.
We're not the police. We don't have ticket writing authority or anything like that. This one guy says, "Hey man, get on the other side. You didn't pay your fare." A guardian angel told him that, and we were like, "Whoa, don't get involved with all that. We're not here for that. That's we got basic training about what we can do, what we should be looking for." And so the guy got up in his face, "Get out of my face! I'm on the phone." Rah, 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 rah. He says, "I don't care. We're the guardian angels." Like he was arrogant, and the guy got all pissed off and jumped back over the turnstile, put his finger in the guy's face, and said, "You're going to regret this. I'm going to be right back. Stay right here." And that guy went out to wherever he went to. He was back in like 5 minutes. It was a crowd, about 20 or 30 people came in.
No way.
Now it's an outraged crowd of his buddies or gang members or whatever the heck they were. And
were they
all on all of us.
What kind of gang was it?
Jump on all of us. And the guy said, no. They were cool. They were trying to talk sense into this idiot. And that's the one I want. And so they hit him. And then somebody took out a knife and plunged a knife in his chest.
What?
I was standing 3 feet from this guardian angel. I got stabbed in the chest.
You got to be kidding me. Wow.
No, I'm not kidding you. And so that was the end of that patrol for that day. He survived that. Now, this guy, I'm pretty sure it was the same guy, if not mistaken, was so gung-ho about trying to be this, guy that saves the world, that one day he saw a purse snatcher, chased the purse snatcher, caught the guy, or the guy spun around at the last moment and bam, shot him in the chest, kills him. So
the same guy?
I'm pretty certain it was the same guy. Memories fade over time. But this was all in the same time frame where there was no guidelines. It was so dangerous, to do what we were doing, and very little reward. I honestly think at that time I stayed a very short time. My family had heard about it, and they're like, "Look, you're risking your life. You guys have no weapons and no formal training." And this one guy almost got all of you guys jumped and killed in the train station. So I think I kind of took a back seat after that. So,
what happened to the guy who stabbed him? Did you guys jump the guy who stabbed him?
They got away. They got away. It was this. I think it was the early '80s, late '70s New York. I mean,
that's like typical out there. Yeah, in many places in parts of the country, you're not used to that kind of violence. It's just shocking to hear somebody just because of a phone, rather than just blow it off and say whatever. No, I'm going to come back, and you have time to think about it, premeditated. And now I decided to stab. I mean, that's insane. That's just crazy people.
The guy was provoking him to hang the phone up and get back over the other side. We're the guardian angels. I said, everybody was telling me, we're not here for that. We were kind of apologizing to the guy. Hey, man, let this go. He's new, whatever we were saying. But he remembered that when he came back with his crew, and he said, I don't want any of them. I want him. And, and that's when it happened. So
it's like that. That's psycho gang crap that people like scratch their heads in. Yeah, so that's why it's important.
Things where guys were maybe a little rough, or they have to be trained in how to properly make a citizen's arrest and all this nonsense. But things have to be done right. I remember one of the documentaries I saw recently had the police of that era. They were the union for the police, because they wanted to get more money and more officers, was telling all their officers to make sure you do every interview you can, putting them down. That they're like a vigilante group, they're not trained. And so many officers were giving interviews during that time saying, oh, no, they're a risk to public safety. They're not trained. We are. We do get paid good money. But, with our training and,
I've seen that.
There was a big campaign against them that was coming from the police union.
And from the mayor too. The mayor called it Hell's Angels. Remember that at Koch. So I think it helped that they got away from the whole thing about going to crack houses and taking the crack and all. That's not your job. Your job there is to, if you see something, say something and document it. And if someone's about to get killed, then you should intervene and try to save that person's life for sure.
And I want to give a shout out to Journeyman TV on this YouTube channel. I don't know the guys who run the channel. It's got almost 3 million subscribers. It's got massive amount. They did a documentary about Rock, Curtis Sliwa, the founder of the Guardian Angels.
Sliwa, yeah.
Where he's in the camera like this, very animated, Sicilian, New York.
Let's tell that story. That's how I started the documentary, with him telling the animated story when Gotti Jr. allegedly called a hit on him because he's talking smack. I guess he also has a popular radio show, and I guess he was talking smack about his father, and he appreciated it. This is not a crazy story. He ends up, this taxi is stolen. So he's in East Village, and I guess he has to go to do a show somewhere. And he's hopped in. And he said, "Man, he was impressed that," he said, "this guy was he spoke English. It looks like he's been in the country for a while. He was squared away. He knew his name, Curtis. He knew where the garden was, where he's going to do this interview." It's like, man, this is a good day for me. I got to be focused. And then instead of making the left, or he made the right. And then he realized something was gone, and these guys were going to hurt him. And it was a stolen taxi. And it was an assassination attempt. And these guys end up shooting him. He takes a couple rounds. He's fighting for his life, and he jumps through the window to escape this unbelievable story. You got to watch this, folks, and listen to him tell
it. One of the things is he was describing how when the guy took the wrong turn, he confronted the driver. Hey, Jack, the Madison Square Garden is over here. Left. Yeah, the guy jumps up from the floorboard with a mask on from the passenger front of the taxi cab.
Boom, boom.
Gun right on him. He's got a mask on.
Yep.
And he realized what's about to happen. He reaches for the handle. These guys had sawed them off and put them back on with crazy glue. So if you tried to get out, it would snap off in your hand.
You couldn't do it. Yeah. He was like he's able to escape through the window. He took a few shots.
He got shot several times in the stomach area and all that. I remember when this happened. Now, there was a huge controversy. Did he stage it for publicity? Poor Curtis, he's going after John Gotti and the son. Now, he accuses that allegedly John Gotti Jr., who's still out and about, is the one who did this on orders from his father. They go after this guy, shut him up. He's been talking all this crap about me and the Gambinos and this and that. So we don't know. I wasn't part of those crews. I avoided those people like the plague, because as soon as you get involved with them and you're not one of them, even if you are one of them, they're all turning on each other, or they're all hurting each other, or, messing with each other's wives.
That's why I said alleged, because I think he was acquitted. Junior was acquitted of this. And I think one of the guys, was convicted, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. And they've always said, even to this day, they maintain he just did it for publicity, to link his name forever with the Gotti name and all this. But who knows? I do know Rock personally, and I knew him very well years ago. Would he remember me today? I don't know. It's over 30 years ago. I do know this. His heart's definitely in the right place with the Guardian Angels. I have nothing but support for the man. He's tried to run for mayor. The guy who just turned the city into a disaster instead won it. And now the city is a dangerous cesspool of violence. And so Curtis wants to really clean it up and do the right thing and help people and make a safe city. I think you told me he's getting ready to run again.
He might. I hope he does. That's what's out there. We'll see what happens. And I guess the one thing I saw on the documentary, you mentioned that, was how do you want me to remember in your tombstone? And I like what he says. At least I tried. I tried to do something, right? A lot of people didn't do anything. So I like that about Curtis.
If you notice on all my true crime books, about a page in, I have the quote from Edmund Burke. All that's needed for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. That's going to be in all of my books. Yeah. I got that because that was a prevalent theme of the Guardian Angels back when I was a Guardian Angel. If you look at the Journeyman TV interview with Curtis Sliwa, the first thing they throw up on that screen is the same quote from Edmund Burke. He was a guy who died in the 1500s or whatever. And it says, the only thing needed for the triumph of evil is for good men.
Good men do nothing. That's what we try to do. So and Bill was his advocacy in my 26 years in law enforcement and us doing these shows. We're trying to help educate people, help people motivate, do the right thing, change your life around, and be positive. That's what we're trying to. That's the message we have here.
So I give a shout out to the Guardian Angels, Curtis Sliwa, Lisa, for his, the support that you've given him and love and marriage over the years. And you guys, if you want to remember me, I was the guy from, Bensonhurst. I had hair back then. I was like 150 pounds lighter, but that was me. I was one of the few white people on these patrols in those days. There was a lot of Spanish and
dangerous. That would get my attention. If I had a guy working with, he got stabbed in the chest. That's unbelievable, man. That would get anyone's attention.
I started withdrawing a little bit then, more out of, I wanted to just live life, and I could, do what I do and help people as well. So that stuck with me my whole life, being the guardian angel guy, the guy who wanted to be federal law enforcement, the guy who wanted to help people, the victimization of my mother in these facilities. And so we're going to roll into another segment of this story here where people with a heart like that, like our next guest, Mary Bass. Now, we're going to be talking about the horrors of assisted living facilities. And then we can do another one on psychiatric facilities, especially back in the day. This is something that's really close to my heart and close to Mary's heart. So she was recently wrongfully terminated, we believe, and many in the legal community believe wrongfully terminated for using the computer system for a completely legitimate purpose, for notifying a visitor on the company email system about the visitation policies at the facility. And so there's a backstory. She is a forensic accountant, a fraud examiner, a data scientist. She's a brilliant young lady who loves senior citizens and is a big crime victim advocate like me. You know Mary pretty well. You've met her a few times here. So we're going to have her here on in a minute. So what I want to do, and we're not going to get into a lot of the details of what's unfolding behind the scenes with this assisted living.
That's understandable.
Facility. But I want to show everybody a trailer. It's on their own page, and it already has some falsehoods on it that are not even accurate about the place, but they're still advertising it. So I'm going to play this trailer, and Mary, if you want to nod, we can see you at your other location. Do you want me to bring you on after the trailer, right? Okay. So we're going to put this trailer. It's about 3 minutes, and I'm going to navigate because I've been to the facility several times. I have friends there. I've been going there long before Mary started working to see people, and coincidentally, she then got a job there as administrative assistant. So here it is. This is owned by a company called Gardent Management Holdings. They own assisted living facilities all across the United States. They had another name previously, but I'll let Mary explain that and some of the drama with this company and the fraud, allegedly. So let me show this trailer. Here it is.
Evergreen Village Assisted Living in beautiful Fort Wayne, Indiana. A pristine building of approximately 3 years old. Looks like a very wonderful and peaceful, beautiful, modern place to put your elderly parents or grandparents in their senior years where they could be cared for, looked after, attended to, kept safe. Or is it? Is this what it appears? Is this place that's so beautiful with the furniture and the cafeteria and the banquet room and the beautiful rooms? Look at the chandeliers. Would anybody believe that this place is rotten to the core? Is it rotten to the core? Why was Mary Bass terminated? What did she uncover as a forensic accountant, data scientist, and fraud examiner at this facility that was so rotten they used a pretextual reason to terminate her? She sent a business-related email to a visitor about the visitation policy. And because of that, they terminated her. Yet they advertise a country store that no longer exists. They double charge people for their food with blue cards and white cards up to $400 a month almost, when the average white card is $100. They triple bill people for technology services they don't receive. They are suspected of fraudulent billing practices. They are suspected of Medicaid fraud. This place is owned by Gardent Management Solutions, formerly BMA. Why was their name changed? We have way more information that will come in subsequent stories, and Mary Bass will tell her story here. Remember, Mary loves the senior citizens at this facility. She's highly competent. She's worked for some of the largest corporations in the United States. Compliance with policies and laws, that's her forte, that's her expertise. Yet as soon as she tried to help the administrators at an Evergreen Village try to get their records and their business into compliance with laws and policy, as soon as she met with an outside investigator by chance, when that person came to visit the administrators who were not even present that day, she's been relentlessly retaliated against. One pretextual reason after another to try to terminate her, culminating in a fake termination.